Really interesting story at On 3 by Pete Nakos, taking a look at the highest paid wide receivers in college football. I find it interesting, fascinating, also kind of expected that Ohio State has two of the three highest paid receivers in the country. But what I thought was more interesting is just how many players are making $1 million at that position. One in which we think the range is about, $600,000-$700,000 more or less, depending on where you are in the Power Four and just how good you have been or how good they expect you to be. Kind of want to run through those and give some observations. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. This is your first time watching Adapt and Respond. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Are you willing to pay more than three of these players on this list $1 million to play for you? I think after we get past the first three, we might have some questions that need to get some answers, but also the price is the price, right? Like that's what it is. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Only so many people are going to have the great wide receivers in the sport. And then you're trying to build based on what your budget will allow. So I think it's interesting to start at the bottom and then work our way up here because it gives us a better understanding of just what the market looks like as opposed to what it looks like at the top. One of the things that I discuss out in the wild is what the environment looks like for players as it denotes salary, right? Name, image, and likeness plus revenue sharing, what their endorsements might look like, and how it is changing the sport. I think most people would agree they want to see the players get paid. They just don't necessarily like them getting paid this much to play college football and go to class, but that's the world that we live in. So it's about, are you willing to outspend others to get elite talent like Texas Tech, like Ohio State? We can keep going like Texas. Folks that got it will spend it because this is not a sunk cost to them. This is the cost of winning. And there are those now that I believe are getting priced out. And that's probably as it should be. Not everybody should be playing college football. We have 136 FBS teams. We really care about perhaps 30 or less, right? I think you can make an argument for all of the Power Four if you want to, plus Notre Dame, and a few Group of 16. But for the most part, we're not really talking about those teams playing for conference championships or playing in the college football playoff, which we hope will get to 16 or even 24 teams, but it's sitting at 12. So right now, the picture looks pretty interesting as we got Aaron Anderson at LSU, who feels like he's on a really good deal at $350,000. Isaiah Horton, who transferred to Alabama after being at Miami, is at $700,000 range. Naziah Hunter at Nebraska is about $800,000. Chris Bell at Louisville is about $600,000. I mean, these numbers are what you would expect mostly for starting wide receivers at Power Four places. Mario Craver at A&M, also about $600,000. Feels like a good deal. Tennessee has Mike Matthews catching passes from Joey Aguilar for like $600,000. Then we get a little bit deeper into it. Berrien Brown, Nick Anderson are making $650,000 compared to say the $350,000 that Aaron Anderson is. DeCorian Moore, number one player in the 2025 cycle at his position, $700,000 out the gate. And you know what? As a number one player in a high school recruiting class, I would expect that. If you're the best at your position, you're probably going to demand high market value. And high market value in college football, we're looking at what would this guy be worth if he wasn't on our football team playing against us. And then you get into some real money, right? With Ryan Wingo at Texas, $750,000. He is one of the most talented wide receivers in the country, and yet he's not performed to the expectation that you might have for him. You want Ryan Wingo to join the ranks of Jeremiah Smith, to say one, as a bona fide, productive wide receiver week in and week out. He hasn't quite done that. Dane Key at Nebraska is really helping Dylan Raiola along with Naziah Hunter. He's making around $800,000, and they went after him pretty hard, so that probably helped the price. Reggie Virgil kind of came out of nowhere for me at Texas Tech. He hasn't done much since transferring from Miami of Ohio, but he's around the 800,000 mark, which is where I thought you would put like a Micah Hudson, right? Cam Coleman at Auburn, one of the best wide receivers coming out of his class behind Ryan Williams. He's the first of 6 guys making at least $1 million in the sport. Now, again, there are more than 11,000 players in FBS. Most of them aren't making 6 figures. Most of them are making, 10 grand, 20 grand, which is still really, really, really good money when you don't have any expenses and you can put all of that into whatever you want. But when you talk about making 7 figures annually, college football becomes the ends you meet. You don't need to play at the next level if you invest your money correctly. And he's joined by another millionaire at Eric Singleton. So they got two millionaire wide receivers at Auburn, and what they had to do against Baylor was run the football. Jackson Arnold's got to start using some of this talent that's around him if they expect to contend. They got Oklahoma next week. Casey Concepcion, I expect this dude to produce at some point. He hasn't quite done it at A&M. He's been all over the map, but he ends up at A&M where he is making $1 million. And I think between him and Mario Craver, you got the goods for Marcel Reed. A&M ought to be more than competitive. I can't wait to see what they do against Notre Dame. And then we get into our top three. And I mentioned that 2 of the top 3 in the sport are at Ohio State. So I'm going to start with Carnell Tate, who there was a rumor going around in this offseason that he was offered $1 million just to hit the portal. Well, when you're making $1.5 million and you're the number 2 wide receiver at Ohio State, you got no real reason to leave. Plus, Carnell's been through it, and anybody that knows his backstory and his background is rooting for him. And the way in which he has played the last couple of years, he would be a number 1 anywhere else in the country. But he fits the program. He is outstanding at his position, and I really enjoy watching him alongside Jeremiah Smith, the way I enjoyed watching Emeka Buka and Jeremiah Smith, and before that, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. Like when they got a pair of guys that can really hurt you, Ohio State's been devastating in passing game. Ryan Williams checks in at number 2, $1.8 million. So just shy of $2 million for the second best wide receiver in the country. We think it is a man who is coming off of a year in which he caught 48 passes for 865 yards and a bevy of touchdowns. Real breakout season for him. Cover of EA Sports' College Football 25, along with the number 1 and highest paid receiver in the sport in Jeremiah Smith, who Nakos has reported making around $4 to $5 million, depending on who you want to ask about it, which is twice as much as the guy beneath him. And for good reason, right? Jeremiah Smith is far and away the best player in college football, regardless of position. We know this. It's about getting him service, and Julian Saint's been great about that. And they've been able to utilize him as an attack object, as a weapon, and as a decoy. What I find to be really fascinating about this is that we got the 6 guys that are making $1 million, and at least 3 of them aren't on teams we expect to play for championship, or the national championship, I should say. Texas Tech, right? Auburn. We're not looking at you to play for a national championship. Not saying you can't, but we don't expect it. I also can tell you who values the wide receiver position and who doesn't based on what we see here. LSU values the wide receiver position. 350, 650, 650, right? Guys that are not making a whole lot of money at their positions, as it notes this list, include places like Oklahoma, places like Michigan, right? Where Notre Dame, where you're not necessarily dependent on being able to throw the ball down the field to get vertical. You really do need to be able to run the football and play great defense. I also think that the market for wide receiver is never going to be as competitive as the market for, say, an offensive tackle, or definitely not for a quarterback or a defensive tackle or an edge rusher. Those guys are always going to be in demand because they're big, they're strong, they're fast. You can develop wide receivers. You can develop running backs. It's really difficult to develop offensive linemen and defensive linemen if they don't come to you with the kind of rough edges that you can sand down. It's really difficult to build a strong oak. It has to be strong already before you can turn it into something great. But I thought that was worth talking about as we get deeper and deeper into the season and these values start to be seen, or shall we say unseen, like Nico Iamaleava last year. We're going to have more things to say. And now that it's a business, we're going to treat it like that. I think you're going to see guys that get told, go to the portal. You did not produce. We're going to go get somebody else. And you're going to see more of an NFL type of experience for these players now that everybody's cashing a check.